Hello film seekers, on this Film Explained, we are looking at artificial intelligence, also called AI. It is an American science fiction drama film directed by Steven Spielberg, released in 2001. It is about a highly advanced robotic boy who has real emotions, longing to become a real human, so that he can regain the love of his human mother. The story begins in the 22nd century, where the ice caps had melted from global warming, causing a rise in sea level, and the oceans had drowned the cities along all the shorelines of the world. Cities like Amsterdam, Venice, New York, lost forever, and causing the world's population to reduce significantly. It is also the time when humans had created intelligent robots, who did not consume resources beyond those of their first manufacture, were very essential in the economy of the society. We see Professor Hobby, who shows a robot called Mecha, which looks exactly like human and acts like human, also perform tasks which were difficult for humans. They were serving the human race. It can perform complex thoughts but lacked emotions. So he proposes that we build a robot child which has emotion, and it could genuinely love the parents it imprints on, with a love that never ends. Love would be the key, by which they acquire subconsciousness. It would have self-motivated reasoning, and dream. He is asked, the real question is, can you get a human love them back? He says ours will be a perfect child, always loving, never ill, never change. With all the childless couple yearning in vain, our new Mecha will open up a new market and fill a great human need. 20 months have passed. We see a man named Henry, who works for that same company called Cybertronics. His wife's name is Monica. Their son Martin has a rare disease, and is kept in suspended animation, which is meant to slow down the body function to avoid death, but is still in that chamber for 5 years. It's like a state of coma. He is in deep sleep. On the other hand, Professor Hobby with his team has created a prototype of Mecha child, and named it David. His men tell him, from the screening process based on employment record, quality of lifestyle, loyalty to the firm. In this individual's case, his family tragedy may qualify him above the rest. Hobby talks to Martin, and gives him David. He brings him home, but his wife Monica doesn't want a robot to take their child's place, so she doesn't accept David. Martin tells him that it's not too late. I can return him the next morning, but we have to try it. She calms down, amazed to see how real he looks. He then tells her, the faith the company has placed on us is extraordinary. There are few procedures to follow if you decide to keep David. If you keep him, an imprinting protocol consisting of 7 words which needs to be spoken to David in a predefined order, for our own protection. This imprinting is irreversible. His love would be sealed and we'd be part of him forever. Because of this, after imprinting, no Mecha child can be resold. If a parent decides not to keep it, they must return it to Cybertronics for destruction. Then both sign the agreement. Then tells her not to imprint until you're entirely sure. She was not sure in the first place, but lets him stay. Initially she doesn't like him, and keep away from him, but as times goes on, her attachment towards him keeps on increasing. She starts to see her son in him, and one day she finally says those words which activates his imprinting protocol, causing him to have an enduring childlike love for her. As she completes those words, David, who used to call her by name, now starts to call her mom, and it feels just like a human. No way anyone could say he is a robot by looking at him, and he hugs her. They both are happy, as if her son has come back. David too loves her. He asks if she will die. She tells him, yes, one day, I will. I will be alone, he says. Asking how long you will live. She tells him, for 50 years. He tells her, I love you. I hope you never die. Never. She gets emotional, and her husband calls her, telling they are unreasonably late, as he was waiting for her to go out. Before she leaves she gives David a toy, telling it belonged to Martin, her son. It is a robotic teddy bear, named Teddy. She tells them to take good care of each other. She leaves, asking sorry for taking so long. Meanwhile they become good friends. In few days, she gets a call from her husband, who tells her that their son has recovered, and is brought home. We see he's a brat who doesn't even handle his toys gently. He tells David, so you are the new super toy now. What good stuff can you do? Can you like walk on the ceiling or the wall? Anti-gravity? Like float? Fly? David asks if he can. Martin replies, no, because I'm real. Asking him to stand. He sees they made David taller than him. And also, he just looks like ordinary kid, instead of being cute. Then asks him, when's your birthday? I never had a birthday, he says. He asks him when was he first built. He says he don't remember. The first thing he remembers is a bird. He asks if he can draw it. He says yes, and draws it. Martin tells him, it looks like a peacock. Can you say peacock? He says it. Can you say pea? He says pea. Can you say it 2 times fast? The scene switches to a later time. Martin asks Monica to read this story to us. David's going to love it. She recites it. It was fairy tale, about a Pinocchio, and how a fairy granted his wish to become real. And we see David actually believing the fairy tale is true. Next day, as they all were having food, David acts as if he is eating, and Martin starts to tease him, making him realize he cannot eat. Due to which David starts to eat it. Though they try to stop him, he stops when his system breaks due to the food he ate. Everyone disgusted to see his face. He is repaired. As they clean his insides, they tell him, "You made a mess of yourself." Monica gets worried, and David tells her, "It's okay, mommy. It doesn't hurt." Realizing it, she just leaves him there and goes out. Then comes back and holds his hand back again. Seeing which, Martin gets jealous. So when he comes back, he asks David to do a special mission for him. If he does it, then he will tell Mom that he loves David. Then Mom will love you. He asks what it is. He says you have to promise, and then I'll tell you. But David tells him, "You have to tell me, and then I'll promise." He tells him, "I want a lock of Mom's hair. I will share it with you, and if you had it and wore it, she might love you even more. Like the princess in the movie we saw. When she had the prince's hair in her necklace thing, he loved her." David tells him, "We could ask her," for which Martin says no. It has to be a secret mission, and tells him to sneak into Mom's bedroom in the middle of the night, and chop it off. David tells, "I can't, I'm not allowed." But Martin tells him, "You promised, you said, tell me, and then I'll promise." So he sneaks into her room with a scissor, gets close, and as he cuts the hair, she turns and opens her eyes, too close to injure her eye, but still he manages to cut a piece of her hair. It was seen by Henry. He gets angry, while shaking him, asks why he did that. She stops him saying, "You will break him." He stops, and David tells him, he wanted Mom to love him more. Her hair falls down and gets picked up by Teddy. The next day, there's a pool party. Henry thinks it was very dangerous for him to hold a weapon and do that. Monica tells him that it's normal for kids to feel jealous and competitive. He was playing a game. He made a mistake. He's practically human. He asks her, "How is he worth the risk to you, to our family?" But she won't let him take David back, because he will be destroyed if we return him. He tells her, if he was created for love, then we can assume he can hate, and if pushed to those extremes, what is he capable of? She leaves without saying anything. On the other hand, David wishes him happy birthday, telling he made this gift for him. Martin's friend intervenes, asking if he is his brother. He says no, and his friend realizes he's a mecha. David asks what is mecha, for which he tells him, "We are organic and you are mechanical," and starts to tease him by saying it repeatedly. Martin stops him. Then they all start touching him. Seeing he feels so real, he wonders if David has DOS, which means damage avoidance system. So he takes a knife and asks to tell when he feels it. As the knife pierces him, he gets scared, goes behind Martin, asking to keep him safe. In that moment they both fall in the pool, and David doesn't let Martin go, just telling him to keep him safe. Martin isn't able to get out, and starts to suffocate, but he is rescued before it's too late, and is saved. After this incident, they decide to return David back to the company. So Monica tells him, "We both will go for a drive tomorrow." He asks to let Teddy to come with them. She agrees, and he gets very happy, and thanks her. As she was heading to return David back to the company, she changes her mind since he would be destroyed if they return him, and she can't see that happening. She stops, and takes him to a forest. He thinks this is picnic. She tells him that she has to leave him here, as he gets to know she won't be coming back, and the fact that he has to be alone now. He starts crying like kids, pleading her not to leave as she tries to leave. He asks her if he becomes real, just the way Pinocchio became real. Can he come home? She tells him it's just a story, they are not real. She hands him some money, and tells him not to get that way, or they will destroy you. Don't let anyone catch you, and stay away from where there are lots of people. Stay away from all people. Only others like him, only Mecha are safe. Then pushes him, feels sorry for not telling him about the world, and leaves. On the other hand, we see a lover robot, named Joe. The girl with whom he had to make love on this day was murdered by her ex. He knows he is in a big trouble, so he escapes, and now he has to hide from people. Meanwhile, David keeps walking with Teddy, telling he will find the blue fairy from the adventures of Pinocchio. There must be someone who knows where she lives. Just the way she made Pinocchio into a real human, she can make him real. That is his motivation, and he keeps going, and finds obsolete mechas, which are not used anymore. Collecting their missing parts from the scrap dumped by humans, he keeps looking at them. Then a group called Flesh Flare come to capture them. David is told about this by a mecha near him. They capture and destroy them on stage. Actually, in these times there are some groups who oppose robots and destroy any unlicensed mecha for entertainment. They all start running, but are surrounded even on land, and soon they are all captured. Teddy was outside the net, but held by David. Soon he breaks loose, but follows to where David was taken. He is caught by a worker there, and sent to Lost and Found. We see a mecha being put inside a cannon, and shot towards a propeller, which rips him into pieces, and David seeing this gets afraid, moves back and holds Joe. Meanwhile Teddy gets out of the box, and goes towards David. As he reaches the cage, he gets grabbed by a girl. Teddy and David say hello to each other, and the girl sees him, and thinks he is real kid, so she goes to her dad who works there, and tells him there is a boy in the cage. They find him in through the cameras. The mechas here are kind to each other and happily accept everything that is being done to them. Mike reaches there to check if he is a machine. He discovers he is a machine. David says I'm a boy, and feels it's impossible to see a machine look so real. A nanny robot is taken, who was very kind to him at the time they were captured. She tells him goodbye as she leaves. Mike says that no one builds children, no one ever has. What would be the point? His colleague, Johnson, saying it could be a custom job. A lot of work has gone into him. He tells David that he is one of a kind. Who made you? He tells his mom made him. He is asked who was your maker, and calls out some company names, but he just says Monica is my mommy. They leave to have a talk. Meanwhile he sees that robot being melted with acid. Mike tells him not to waste something this original. The other guy tells him originality without purpose is useless, gives him some money, and takes him out onto the stage. David holds Joe's hand tightly, and he too is pulled with him, takes a mic and introduces David to everyone, saying it as a living doll. We all know he was made to steal our hearts, to replace our child, and it's the latest of their insults to human dignity, their silence, and he tells them to not to be fooled by the artistry of this creation. No doubt there was talent in its crafting. Yet with the first strike of acid, you will see the big lie come apart before your very eyes. As a drop falls, David in fear starts to say not to burn him. He just acts completely like a real kid, telling not to burn repeatedly. A woman stands and tells him, Mecha don't plead for their lives. He tells them he is trying to imitate our emotions. But everyone start to throw stuff at him, and revolt. David and Joe are freed, and they escape. On the other hand, we see Professor Hobby's office, and it turns out that he had a son named David, and he made the mecha David look exactly as his kid. He is worried, and his team arrived telling him that they found him in the flesh fair. He is alive and in one piece. Hobby is very happy to hear it. Meanwhile the three walk into woods, and David tells Joe that he wants to find Blue Fairy, who will make me a real boy, and then I can go back home, and mom will love me. Joe asks if the Blue Fairy is a mecha, man or woman. He tells woman, and Joe tells him he know all about woman, about all that there is to know. No two are ever alike, and after they meet him, they are never the same. He takes him to a city, where he meets him to Dr. No, who is a holographic search engine. Ask any question and he will answer. He's similar to Google, but to question him they have to pay fee. He gives everything he got, after few failed attempts. He asks how can Blue Fairy make a robot into real boy. The system glitches, then an answer read out from a book written by Professor Alan Hobby on how can a robot become human. He asks how to find Blue Fairy. It mentions you can find her at the end of the world. Joe tells him that many a mecha have gone to the end of the world, never to come back. That is why they call it end of the world. Location is Manhattan. He tries to stop him saying it could be a trap set for us, asks to stay with him, but David doesn't listen and leaves. Outside the police capture Joe, and David finds an advance helicopter. As he tries to use it, Joe escapes by the disturbance he caused, and escape with David. They reach Manhattan, they get into a building and starts to search for her. He finds his replica, and seeing this he gets angry that he is not unique, and saying you can't have her and I'm David. He destroys him. Joe leaves, and by the noise, Hobby comes in, stops him saying yes you are David, and I was waiting for you. He asks if Blue Fairy's here too, because she will make me a real boy. He tells you are a real boy, as real as I've ever made, which makes me your Blue Fairy. He disagrees. Dr. No told me she would be here. He tells him that is what it needed to know, to get you to come here, and it was the only time we intervened, and the only help we gave him so you could find your way home. And tell you, robots didn't dream, robots didn't desire, unless we told them what to want, and you have no idea what a success story you have become. You found a fairy tale, and inspired by love, fueled by desire. You set out to make her real. The Blue Fairy is a human flaw, to wish for things that don't exist, or the greatest single human gift, the ability to chase down our dream, and that is something no machine has ever done until you. But David thought he was one of a kind. He tells him, my son was one of a kind. You are the first of a kind. David finds it hard to process. He leaves him and goes to call his team. Meanwhile David finds several copies of himself. He used to think he is unique, but seeing this he loses all hopes, and falls from the edge, which is seen by Joe. He is dragged with the current. and he sees something and tries to go towards it, but is pulled out by Joe. He tells him he saw it, the place where she lives. The blue fairy is down there. The police manage to track Joe with the help of the chain he's wearing. They pull him with magnets, but before he gets pulled, he tells him not to forget him when he becomes a real boy, and sets the device to go to submarine mode, and gets pulled away. David, along with Teddy, reach to Blue Fairy, which is actually her statue, and this place used to be an amusement park before it got submerged, and a giant wheel ride falls on the submarine, and he gets stuck, but is still able to see her. He thinks she is real, and asks her, "Please make me into a real boy." And he keeps saying it until his battery dies. 2,000 years passes by. Ice Age had started, and the humans were extinct, and now there are some advanced robots. They find the place where David was there for 2,000 years. They wave their hands, which gives him power, and wakes him up, after coming out of the ship, and goes towards Blue Fairy. These mecha, which look like aliens now called specialists, start to talk to themselves in their own language that this machine was trapped here before the freezing, which means he knew living people, meaning that these robots have never seen a real human, are interested to learn about them. As he touches the statue, it cracks and breaks, and only after then he starts to look at his surroundings. They walk towards him, and read all his memories, and by touching each other they all share each other his memories. Next we see David. He finds himself in a place which looks almost like his home. He tries to search for Mom, but finds the Blue Fairy. All this was created by the specialists, to best communicate with him and fulfill his wish. He wishes her that he wants to be a real boy. She tells him she cannot make him a real boy, and tells him the truth that 2,000 years have passed, and she is no longer living. "We can bring back other people from your time, whose DNA we have." Teddy still has Monica's hairs which David had cut, and they agree. Later one of the specialists comes to him, and tells him that they can bring her back along with her memory, but we could bring her back only once, and she would live for only 1 day. As soon as she sleeps she dies. When she becomes unconscious, she will vanish out of existence forever, and tells him, "We only want you to be happy." And in an instance it turns to a new morning, and send him to her. He's happy to meet her, and she is too. They enjoy this day to the fullest. They play and celebrate. It was the happiest day of his life. There was no Henry, no Martin, only David and her, and he doesn't let her know what is happening. And at night when she goes to sleep, she tells him that she always loved him, and he too sleeps peacefully with her, and for the first time goes to the place where dreams are born. Since you watched till the end, you might like similar content, so do consider subscribing, and turn on the bell to never miss out my videos, and thanks for watching.